Alrighty, folks, welcome back to episode number 82 of A Session with JJ right here on the one and only Voices on the Net Network. Appreciate all of you tuning in. That is right, we have Mr. Charles Fox on the line. Going to get to him in just a moment. I promised you. I have so much I want to ask him. I know all of you want to hear what he has to say and what we're going to be discussing. But first, if all of you would be so kind, those of you listening to the network, or to the show right now, right here on the network, would you please visit www.vonthenet.com. That is right, the Voices on the Net Network's website, where you, the listeners, will be able to find more information pertaining to the network in thorough detail. All you have to do is click that About link at the top of the website. You can also check out, and probably the best features on the website are the podcasts. Yeah, the podcasts of any of the episodes from any of the shows available on demand for your convenience. And you can check all of this out by going to www.vonthenet.com. Alrighty, without any further ado, it really is a true honor, a real pleasure to be able to say this, that Charles Fox is on the line. That is right, this guy, two-time Emmy and Grammy winner, winning composer. It really is an immense pleasure to have you on the program, Charles. How are you, man?
I'm great, JJ. Nice to talk to you.
It is so nice to talk to you as well. I mean, I before the show, started, I said I can't thank you enough. Your schedule is probably so busy, but the listeners are really going to appreciate what you have to say. They really want to hear what you have to say. As they're one of the greatest composers of all time, right here, two-time Emmy and Grammy Award-winning composer. Some of the greatest TV themes out there: Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, Love, American Style, Love. I mean, these are all prominent themes that we know. It really is a true pleasure. So I've got some questions I want to ask you, but before we do so, what I usually do with my guests here is they usually introduce, themselves. I mean, I'm sure most of the listeners know of you, I've heard of you, have read about you, but do you want to care to maybe briefly introduce yourself, just a few tidbits about you, your little biography maybe?
Well, I grew up, born and raised not far from where you are, in the Bronx, New York,
Okay.
just across the river. And I went to the High School of Music and Art. Then now it's called LaGuardia High School. It's a combination of music and art and the Performing Arts High School. And after high school, I had a kind of a different route. Well, first of all, I started playing in bands when I was very young. When I was about 15 years old, I had my first band. We went up to the Catskill Mountains, and I was introduced to, aside from the life of the Catskills, which was a lot of fun those days. I discovered Latin music, and I got heavily into Latin music, and I started playing Latin music and writing songs, and really my first songs were all in Spanish.
Wow.
I didn't speak Spanish, but I had a good feel for the music, and eventually got to play with some of the great bands like Roberta, Tito Puente, and I wrote music for them and arranged for them. So that was kind of my early start in music. No. And then rather than go to college, I went to Paris, and I had the good fortune of studying with one of the extraordinary teachers of all time in music, Nadia Boulanger, who was Aaron Copland's teacher 40 years before me, and taught generations of composers from around the world. And so my background was in classical music and opera, and listening to opera, and I studied jazz piano with Lenny Tristano, one of the great jazz pianists, but when I came back from my studies, I needed to earn a living, and I got into pop music.
Yeah.
And, as they say, one thing leads to the other. Probably my earliest work on television was when I started working for The Tonight Show for Sketch Henderson, when he had The Tonight Show band with Johnny Carson. And I used to write some of those entr'acte music, with the band, the show would go on the air and off the air. The band would play some kind of music.
Cut segments, right? Just a segment.
Segments, right? Yep. And I would do some of those, and sometimes do some special piano arrangement for sketch.
Wow, that's amazing.
And then my very first theme for television was 1965, which was Wide World of Sports.
That's what I was going to actually ask you next regarding the Wide World of Sports and, of course, Monday Night Football, how you got involved. But the high school that you graduated from, now it is known as LaGuardia, but the High School of Music and Art, when you went, that's when it was called that. And then I believe they what did they do? Did they kind of merge and become the LaGuardia High School or LaGuardia School?
They did, yeah. Music and art was there since, I think, 1940s, early 40s. And 25 years ago, High School of Music and Art, these are two of the great art schools in the country, now merged together. The other's Performing Arts. If you saw the film Fame, that's the school from the movie Fame, the High School of Performing Arts.
Right.
So the school now, which has been around at this location called LaGuardia High School of the Arts,
Gotcha.
for 25 years, and I'm pretty involved with the school. And actually, I'm going back. I started doing concerts for them last year to raise funds, and I'll be going back, I think, May 1st, I think we set the date to do a concert, where some of my friends, some of the great songwriters, to come and just do an evening around the piano. We raised quite a bit of money last year, so I think we're going to consider an annual event, because I started doing that here as well with my wife Joan about 5 years ago for an organization that helps students, about 2,000 students, called Fulfillment Fund. And we've been raising money for students, so it's a good feeling, and we're happy to do it.
That is so great. We're speaking with, that is right, two-time Emmy-winning composer and Songwriters Hall of Fame inductee, who has written really some of the most prominent TV themes out there. I mean, when you talk about Happy Days, Laverne Shirley, Love American Style, Wonder Woman, as well as, The Wide World of Sports from ABC, Monday Night Football. And you can also check out his website, killingmesoftly.com. He has a memoir out there, Killing Me Softly, My Life in Music. This is Charles Fox, everyone. Just a true honor to have him on the program here. I mean, everybody knows of these shows. I mean, I was just checking the chat room, and people, they were literally preparing for this show with you, Charles, by watching reruns of Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley. Yeah, isn't that special? Isn't that so great? But
it is great. One of the pleasures I have is when I do a lot of traveling, and I can be in a foreign country and see like Happy Days dubbed into German or Dutch or something. It's kind of funny to hear the funds run around in all these different accents.
Yeah.
Anyway, those are wonderful. So I appreciate that your fans are listening.
Oh, they're so astounded that they're listening to you right now. You should hear me right now. I'm acting more as a fan than a host right now. I'm supposed to be the host of a show right here. I'm like stuttering. It's amazing that I'm talking to you. It really just, I can't thank you enough. But let's get into some questions right here. Actually, before we get into some questions, I guess this is a question, technically. But how did you get involved with the wide world of sports and Monday Night Football, Charles? I mean, you were involved with, Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, of course, Killing Me Softly with his song, the Roberta Flack hit. Beautiful song right there. But how did you get involved with the wide world of sports? I guess the sports factor, the ordeal, the kind of the ordeal of sports.
Backing up just a bit before that, I was an arranger before I got asked to write, scores for films and all that.
Okay.
And although I was a songwriter, but I was earning more money as an arranger. And one of the things I got asked to do was arrange a couple songs for an artist, a singer who was one of the stars of Get Smart. Remember that show?
Yep.
And the songs were Agent 99, and I've forgotten the other one already. But the producers of the show were David Susskind.
Okay.
And he was there in the studio, and Dan Melnick, I'm sorry. And Barbara Feldon was the artist. She was the singer. She played the co-starring role of Get Smart, and I was the arranger. And there were two songs I was arranging, and at the end of the session, David Susskind, who was a very big-name television producer and personality himself at his own show, Dan Melnick put his arm around my shoulder and said, it sounds like you could do movies. And I said, well, something I'm always hoping to do. And of course, I'd done a few little documentary kind of things at that time. And so they gave me the chance to do my first television film, which was a remake of Johnny Belinda starring Mia Farrow. And then the fellow who was handling the music for that was involved with ABC when Wide World of Sports came along. And they asked me to do that. And no one knew if Wide World of Sports would take hold because it was an anthology series of sports and had never been done before. Well, it turned out to be such a success that the show stayed on the air. I mean, it may still be on the air for all I know, but it was on for at least 30 or 35 years or something.
Yeah.
We did that in 1965. And a couple of years later, ABC thought, well, maybe we'll try to do football on a Monday night. And again, they had no idea if that was going to be successful. Of course, it was wildly successful, still on the air.
Wow.
But they asked the same team that did the theme for Wide World of Sports to do Monday Night Football. So I did the original one. It was replaced, actually, after about 7 or 8 years by someone else, but I started that show off. And that was the only one of all my shows, I must say, that over the years that my theme was replaced after a number of years, because all the others, and I've done many more than the ones that you mentioned,
okay.
Because some of them didn't last very long. I mean, for example, Happy Days was very successful, but it didn't really become that successful until the second year. And the first year, they used Rock Around the Clock as a theme song, because even though we did that as a pilot from Love American Song, it was an episode of Love American Song called Love in the Happy Days, ABC didn't think they were ready to revisit the 50s yet. It wasn't until George Lucas came out with American Graffiti, which Rod Howard starred in as well, that they decided to give the 50s a chance. They brought Happy Days back. But then the ABC decided to use the theme from Rockin' Around the Clock, from Midnight American Graffiti, which is Rockin' Around the Clock.
Okay.
And so I wrote the song with Norman Gimbel, but it stayed as an end title for the first year. And after the first year, the show was doing well enough to be picked up, but not great. And then suddenly ABC and Paramount started getting a lot of cards and letters about the